Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good double.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
All right, so now we're going to move over to our spoiler review of the Ultimate Showdown, Godzilla vs. Kong. And joining us for that review is our special guest, Brandon Hadnot. Thank you for returning to the show and to talk about this movie.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So, Brandon, we're going to start with you. I know Ernesto was just telling us earlier in the show that he was doing a deep dive into the Monsterverse. So first, did you also kind of prep yourself for the Monsterverse leading into Godzilla, and then also your thoughts on Godzilla versus Kong?
I didn't really prep myself.
Okay.
I remember the movies like Godzilla, and then Kong, Skull Island, and then Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And then I actually just watched recently Godzilla vs. Kong, and
okay.
Yeah, it was a lot.
What were your thoughts?
It was fun. I saw some critics saying like, don't watch this movie if you want like a human connection and everything. And for me, for this one at least in particular, like I walked into it like, I just kind of want to see two big old monsters fight each other and break stuff and all that kind of stuff. Although, for King of the Monsters, I did enjoy seeing Millie Bobby Brown, 11 from Stranger Things, and Vera Farmiga, and the other guy have this kind of like family-centric thing that was going on with like their divorce issues and all that. It was interesting for that movie. But for Godzilla vs. Kong, I kind of knew what I was getting into. I was getting into like a sock and bopper match with a big old lizard and a big old ape. And I got what I came for. It was kind of weird on some cases where it was kind of like the Hollow Earth thing. I don't know if that's like a part of the Godzilla lore or anything like that. That was just a little, that was quite a twist. But it was interesting enough, and I really liked what they did for the 20 seconds it lasted or whatever, the fight between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, though. I thought that was really, really cool how they did it. A little cheap, but for a first of its kind, I think, kind of movie of this at this level and this budget, I thought it was pretty fun. A lot of stuff that could have been done better.
Yeah.
But
and we'll probably dive into that a little bit later in our spoiler review. Ernesto, what were your thoughts? I know, like I said, you were kind of giving yourself a deep dive into the Monsterverse. So, what were your thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong?
Well, kind of just leading into that, because this is the first time I had seen, like I told you, the only one I had seen beforehand is Kong Skull Island. So, but now, I watched Godzilla, I watched Skull Island, King of Monsters, and then Godzilla vs. Kong. So, just first, Godzilla, the first one, it was all right. I thought there was I felt like they spent too much time in the beginning for dealing with Bryan Cranston's wife dying. Like, I understand that set off his motivations, but they could have cut it down, and that could have easily cut like 15 or 20 minutes off of that already 2-hour film. But it was good. Some of the monster action was pretty cool. I didn't really expect a lot from that one. I think one of the strongest ones is Kong Skull Island. Like, I don't know what it is about that film. Like, it's just so good, that you got. First of all, you have like a really, really good cast. I mean, you got John Goodman, Samuel Jackson, Brie Larson, Tom Hiddleston. Like, can't really go wrong. And it's the same thing. You got massive explosions, massive fights. Like 30 minutes in, you got Kong bashing away the helicopters when they first enter Skull Island, and like that whole crazy scene, and that the John C. Reilly was just such a good comedic relief in that film. As a rewatch, it was great. Like, and I think it's one of my dad's favorite movies, because whenever he wants to check out his sound system, he always puts specifically that movie on. The scene, and then he goes specifically to the scene where the skull crushers come out in that field with the vents. He's like, this is the scene. I gotta check all my settings, because it's just that scene's all over the place. It's a great scene.
That is so funny that your dad has the one movie he goes for the sound check. For me, it's Captain America Civil War when they're starting, and there's so much going on, and I'm like right when they do that, they're the big fight there,
mm-hmm.
and I always put that scene on, and I just let it play out, and I was like, yeah, okay, all right, the shield, I'm like, okay, I heard it on that speaker, so we're good there. The music is really loud, the bass is good over there, and I think it's so funny that we got to test the sound. That's the movie. We got to put on that movie right there. It's so funny. We're ready to go now.
Yeah.
All right. It got the stamp of a Captain America Civil War approval, and with your dad, it's it has the stamp of Kong Skull Island. So we're good. We can watch future movies now. But that's so funny that your dad does that. Also, the reason why Kong Skull Island is different, it's just because it's better filmmaking. That's why. It's
obviously
a far superior movie. But go on.
It really is. It really is.
Yes,
start to finish. Then moving on to Godzilla King of Monsters, it was cheesy at points. I know Brandon, you were mentioning that storyline with the divorce. I just felt like it was just so a left field turn. All right, you were bad, and now you helping us. What are you doing? Did you sacrifice yourself? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was, but the monster action in that film was 100% on point. When Godzilla rips his head off and then eats his head, and as he's eating his head, he does that his laser shot out of his mouth and burns him. That was pretty awesome. It doesn't get any better than that. But I will say, leading into this film, I am glad that I watched all the other films, because I do feel that it gave me added knowledge, finding out that the skull that they controlled Mechagodzilla from was the skull from the previous movie, and then obviously Kong from Skull Island. I feel like there's not too much connection between the first film and the rest of the series, just for the mere fact that, hey, this is how Godzilla started. This is his origin story. Everything else, I felt like it's completely brand new. We didn't get any callbacks from anybody in the first film, but here you get Kyle Chandler and Millie Bobby Brown back again for this one.
Yeah.
Although we didn't see anybody from Kong Skull Island, maybe an old Brie Larson or an old Tom Middleton, maybe executives in Monarch or something. I did read in an article from Looper that kind of the whole thing is big unanswered questions, and one of those they talk about characters that were missing and kind of just different plot points throughout the movie, in case you didn't figure it out in the film, here's what we think happened. It was pretty interesting. I'm going to link that one in the description. But now, leading into Godzilla vs. Kong. I mean, right in the beginning, you get Grandpa Kong in containment. I felt you know what it felt like? It felt like Old Man Logan, but Kong style. It's Old Man Kong.
Old Man Kong.
He's just walking around. He's talking to that little girl. We find out that the village people that he was protecting, they were all killed except for this one little girl. He just gets a tree, turns it into a spear, and just launches it at the ceiling. It's get me out of this hole. I know this is fake. I don't know. I thought it was cool, a cool way to bring him back, and you see all his old battle scars that he got from the first film. Yeah, I mean, you get the premise early that they're supposed to fight. There's supposed to be this mythic battle between them. But it was pretty evident in the beginning that they were gonna fight. They were gonna do a Batman versus Superman, they were gonna fight and then come together. But at the end of the day, when you look at who won, Godzilla won. He beat his ass. He stomped his chest. And then, as I played in the beginning, that one scene, Brandon, as I opened the show with the soundbite of Godzilla screaming in Kong's face after he had just basically stopped his heart with his foot. Basically stomping him out and screaming in his face. But if he hadn't let him live, he wouldn't have been able to beat Mechagodzilla because Kong messed him up.
Yeah.
Although, what was that axe made out of? I felt like it was maybe a
One
shard
of
of Godzilla's things, right? That's what I thought. That's kind of where I was getting from that.
Because they fought
little
before.
Scale things, yeah.
Yeah.
One of his ancestors has fought before, but yes.
Yeah.
But you know what? I kind of wish I would have gotten maybe a 2-minute clip of the axe being made. Like maybe like an old school Kong ripping it off an older Godzilla, just to kind of show maybe their previous battles, or maybe there should have been some kind of exposition just kind of detailing the mythic rivalry between them two, shown through hieroglyphics, or somebody could have been explaining it when they went to Kong's home and they could have talked about it. I don't know. There's a couple
the beginning of Black Panther. They could have done a quick little CG sequence. Saying they fought before, and then one of Godzilla's or whoever their ancestors are, getting snapped off the spine and making that axe.
Yeah, like a little quick, that would have been good. I mean, overall, I think it was a great movie series. I think, obviously, the king out of all 4 films for me is Kong Skull Island, and then I would probably put Godzilla vs. Kong immediately after. Then King of Monsters, and then the original Godzilla. So almost in reverse, just putting Kong Skull Island at the very top. I like seeing Tyree Henry Brown, because this is
Brian
the first.
Tyree Henry.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. I recognize him from Atlanta. He's hilarious. He was a great addition to the film. I didn't even notice that it had an hour 53 runtime. It didn't really feel like it dragged. It was cool. It was a cool CGI film. I don't know. Overall, it was great. What about you, Matt?
Yes, so I feel like I need 2 different hats on. I have the one side that'd be like, Matt, don't think about the story. You got big monsters on the screen. Don't worry about it.
That's where I was coming. That's where I was coming from, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
The other side is but if you look at the story, a lot of it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Now, that being said, the story is definitely, it's not hard to figure out the story. You're just kind of wishing, all right, if I am given one, can you please just, explain a few things for me? I'm not asking for much. I will say that the biggest flaw with all of these movies is that it's not interconnected. So when it's just a tiny bit. You watch Godzilla, and I feel like you don't really need much pretense to get into Godzilla, King of Monsters. You watch Kong Skull Island, the movie based in the 70s. It has nothing to do with the other movies. And then you can walk into Godzilla vs. Kong and not really needing to see that movie because there's not a lot of direct ties. The main through line is that Kong is on Skull Island. Monarch is still, there. The government's still bad. They wants to kill them. It's there's that. I just wish that these movies had a through line that I can connect with.
Well, the whole Mechagodzilla thing, that's like a main plot line in this one, but that's a direct connection to Godzilla King of Monsters.
Yeah, but you don't need to watch Godzilla King of Monsters to figure they just took a dead monster's head to make this movie. Done.
Okay,
you don't need the pretense. You don't need.
And that's fair. And they do kind of talk about it when they're there in that room. They're like, hey, this is this thing that he fought, and this is how they were connected. That's fair. That's a good point.
And so, if we had these, and then the other side, if we're not looking at big monsters, we're forced to follow these humans, and it's hard to care for them if you keep changing them in every movie.
That's fair.
And so, even in the next one, okay, great, you brought back Millie Bobby Brown. What does she do? Nothing. She did. You can take her whole story and give it. It doesn't need to be there because she didn't provide anything useful. She went on a little adventure with I'm sorry, what was his name again?
Kid from Deadpool.
The kid from Deadpool, yes, and the guy from Atlanta. What was his name?
Brian Tyree Henry.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So,
but they threw the liquor on the control board for
To kill
Mechagodzilla.
Mechagodzilla.
They
Yeah.
slowed him down so that
Ridiculous.
so that Kong could chop him up.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Stupid.
That's
That's
quantum
but
computing
okay,
required to.
Okay, but are we really like breaking down the specifics about a nuclear lizard that shoots lasers out of his mouth and a big monkey that can destroy shit?
Ernesto, this is.
Are
this
you
is
really
my
gonna
stand.
battle logistics? Like, oh, how are they gonna stop Mechagodzilla? Are you talking about this thing that they got from an energy source from the center of the earth?
Hold on.
Yeah, let's talk about
Yeah,
all that.
We will, because I can believe a lot of things, Ernesto. But you're telling me that liquor, like just throwing water on a computer, is gonna slow down this big ass monster? If you want to slow him, just have Kong, not King Kong, but have Kong just destroy him. We don't need the computer scene. We don't need it at all, because the guy
They
the
needed
kid
it to
from-
slow him down because that one
they
quick
did-
second
they did
was
not-
what Kong needed to
No.
chop him up.
I mean, I know what
My
the
thing-
movie. Go ahead, Brandon.
I'm sorry. One thing is just that, like, in the movie, didn't Mechagodzilla just become like autonomous because
Yes.
of the skull? Or so it's just
Just the
like,
energy source.
like if he's autonomous and he's controlling himself, then why is a cup of liquor going to be the thing that takes him down?
That is a good point. I actually
That's
forgot
the
about
only
the
thing
autonomous.
that made me mad.
That's true. That's
But
a
yeah,
good
like,
point.
but also like you're gonna rush over to the computer and like, okay, and you're not even like a super hacker. The kid just runs in like, let me try to guess the password. What?
What makes you
Right.
think you're gonna get that?
Right.
Guess the password.
First try.
And then say if the movie figured it out, right? Maybe he saw the password, a sticky note underneath the table, whatever,
QWERTY.
right? Then what are you gonna do? Like it took you this long to figure out the password, let alone like I'm tech savvy. I'm gonna try to figure this shit out. All I'm saying, Ernesto, is that Millie Bobby Brown and her team of misfits did not need to be in that movie. I'm sorry, Billy Chandler. What was his name? Kyle Chandler. I liked him in King of Monsters. He did not need to be in this movie. He
didn't do anything in this movie.
zero purpose.
It
Is
was
he
like
the
a cameo.
defibrillator guy?
No.
No,
okay.
that's Alexander Skarsgård. That's the guy from.
Oh, right.
He was Millie Bobby Brown's father.
Yeah.
And that was
yeah.
he had a huge role in King of Monsters and a sliver of a role.
He was under a
in-
triage the whole time in this
Yes.
movie.
Wasn't he? Wasn't Alexander Skarsgård's character? Wasn't he working for Apex to
Yeah.
get them to that energy source?
I don't think so. He was yes. In the movie he's like, I want to get to Hollow Earth. You have the technology. We'll work together. Yeah, like, or you have the skills.
But he knew
to
that
get
they were
there.
going. He knew that they were going there to get the energy source because that was part of the selling point. We're like,
Well,
I need you
he was
to
never
get
surprised. Rebecca
Really?
Hall's character was surprised. He didn't.
See,
he never
I felt like
cared.
he was like, oh, how could you do that? He was immediately like he jumped ship to help the other side. It's like, what? Like, did you forget? You're the one who brought us here. Like, you're the one who brought us all together.
Right.
I will say that now there's a lot. I can go on and on about the problems I have.
There's
with
a lot
this
that
movie.
we can
Yes.
pick. There's a lot
yes.
that we can pick apart.
Yes. But what was very thrilling to see was that our two main. The reason why we came to see this movie, Godzilla versus Kong, and if just based on the title, I believe they delivered on giving us great action when it was there.
We got several fight scenes. We didn't get a lead up to one big fight scene. We got like 2, almost 3 major fights from them. You had the
I was
one
gonna say
in
like
the
the
water
boat.
when they first got to Tokyo, when he like blasts his home and then Kong climbs up and they first fight and then Godzilla beats him. And then you take a break and then you get the 3-way battle between Mechagodzilla, Kong, and Godzilla.
Yeah, with the first one being on the boat, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, also, I mean, again, a little bit. I'm going back to the nitpicking side. Why? How did Godzilla know where Kong was? Doesn't matter. Why were they containing him? I think they briefly mentioned that Skull Island was becoming what's it called? They're unstable. Skull Island was becoming unstable, so they have Kong in this containment. And
well, remember, Godzilla could always sense. He can sense where the other monsters. He can sense the Titans. He can sense He can sense other predators.
But
that's
not
why he
within
was
the containment.
No, because Skull Island was surrounded by that massive storm. Like you couldn't even barely get in there. He's been protected there the whole time.
All right, I'll give you that. That's fine. And then now the second question that I have is, why are they fighting in the first place? Aside from the fact that they did it in the past.
Because they're apex predators, and there can't be two apex predators. So they want one of them wants to reign supreme, and they can't have both.
All right, I'll give you that too. I'm sorry I was so hostile.
No,
Yeah.
but these are things that you may have missed it, but they did like kind of quickly brush over.
Right,
in one of the films, I don't even remember
Yeah.
which one. It may have been one of the other ones.
And I feel like that's the problem. These films, they give you maybe information you may or may not need. They give you stories you may or may not need. But like all in there, it's explained somehow. But like it's not clear when you're walking into any of these movies what the true nature of it all is. But I guess if you ignore that and if you're just looking at the two monsters fighting, I will say this, Brandon, I was fortunate enough to go watch it in the theater. I saw Godzilla vs. Kong in IMAX. I wasn't planning on it, but I really wanted to see big monsters on a big screen.
Yeah.
And it was like 30 minutes before showtime, and I was like, there's only like 10 people in there. I was like, all right, shit. And then we just walked out of the house and went, because I really wanted to see it in the theater. So I will say that it gave me a cinematic experience of enjoying a movie in the theater, which I loved, and like hearing those monsters roar in an IMAX theater is like, yeah, I don't even know what the story. Do we know what's going on? I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They go roar. Let's go round 2. Let's do this. So that was great, like cinematically. It was like a good movie. Turn off your brain, eat some popcorn. Let's enjoy a movie that's a little under 2 hours. But then when you start thinking about it, that's when you start getting a little frustrated. But then I saw the movie again at home, and some things we were able to clear up. But yeah, the obviously the stuff on the boat was great. That was great, intense fighting. I really enjoyed the showdown in was it Hong Kong or Tokyo?
I thought it was Tokyo. It was
Tokyo?
Japan. I feel like it was in Japan.
One of the places, one of the two. They, wherever their showdown was, the neon lights was great. He had the axe in his hand. He was able to go, to that area. I just think that like the way that they shot that and the way that they were fighting, it just felt like really grand and cinematic. Like it was very fluid. Like I felt like it wasn't like clunky or anything. They're both ready to go, and like especially Kong. He's like literally like using the building as a backboard to like punch to punch him, and then like even like he's like climbing on buildings, and like he just quickly grabbed the axe like it's no one's business. Like, oh, here it is. Boom.
He's also doing like some quick thinking. Like he grabbed like that little cement disc thing, and he was like using it as like Captain America's shield when he tried to shoot him again.
Seriously.
And I actually thought he was gonna like Olympic throw it out.
Somebody made a meme where Godzilla had like an AR-15 or something like that.
I don't. It was just so cinematic to watch, and then obviously, like, I mean, I feel like these kind of movies are kind of predictable in a way where, like, yeah, obviously they're both not gonna die. The trailer said someone's gonna win, and they did make that promise. Godzilla won that battle, fair and not fair and square, but like he won.
People are still debating.
I mean, I don't feel like it's up for debate.
It's not up for debate.
Either.
There was a clear sign of defeat.
I totally agree with that. Look,
the humans actually had to bring Kong back to life.
Yes, like they
Turned
had
the ship into a defibrillator.
Yeah. They jump started his heart.
Right.
I don't know if that's like a sign of like I think he won that battle. You know what I mean?
Oh, and then he popped his shoulder back into place to go.
Oh yeah, like Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, it's like he lost. Okay, get over it.
It was so great, like just him doing that, like he's like, oh, building. All right, here we go. Back. But also like again how they shot that, like he banged his shoulder and then like they zoomed in on him like really quickly, and like he was like ready, like his fist up ready to go, like boom. That's like he's like, yeah, I don't know what you're about to happen, but yeah, let's do that. But then obviously, like, you know, they kind of team up together to fight Mechagodzilla, and obviously Godzilla was getting his ass beat by the robot. And then they had that like mess up pretty bad, and they had that awesome.
I'm laughing so hard.
And then they had that awesome, like, you know, Godzilla uses his breath or whatever to hit the sword to give it energy, so Kong can beat that robot ass. It was fantastic.
He was just like chop, chop.
Yeah. Ernesto, I think you got so excited we lost your mic there. Yeah,
you did. You actually did. I was like chop, chop, chop. I chopped my mic off.
You chopped your mic off. That's insane.
But yeah, those cuts to when like Kong could see Godzilla getting that 2-piece and a biscuit from Mechagodzilla, I was crying.
It's like, oh, I bet you wish you didn't beat me up so hard now, huh? How do you feel now?
Aren't you glad I'm alive now? Thanks to humans, I got some spaceship defibrillator to help me out.
It's like he consciously waited a second, like, you know what, I'm just gonna see how this goes. Like, look who's so tough now.
It's like, oh yeah, it's like, I'm gonna let you get a couple more hits in. But it was interesting. They finally had like missiles and bombs that were finally able to pierce his skin. That's the first time. That's the first time they hit him with a missile, and you can actually see it charring like his skin. Yeah. Well, Brandon, I have to ask you, like, how did, as being a digital artist, like, how did you feel about the CGI in this film?
Okay, so there's a whole video that the guys at Corridor Digital did, which is a great video on like what makes like bad CGI and everything. Because it's like, I will always feel for these people who like are the artists behind it, and they have like very little time most of the time to like make all this stuff happen. And I think I don't really know how much of this project was like work from home, right? Like, I don't know if these people were like in their own houses having to use the computer that they had to kind of like process these images, but this was like really not, it didn't do it for me, like CGI wise and like VFX wise. There are some really great shots in there, like there's some beautiful moments that happen when they are fighting on the aircraft carrier. Like, I thought that was done really well. I thought that the fight in Tokyo was beautiful. But when it got to little parts, like when they finally discovered Mechagodzilla, like he made his entrance in that like battle room or whatever, the backgrounds were like so obviously like, oh, this is like bad. Like, and no offense to the artists and everything, I know that it doesn't mean anything to say that now that I'm trashing the CGI, but it's like when I can tell very easily that these actors are just sitting in a sound stage and there's like no wonder to the background or anything, and like the depth perception is not really even there. It's just kind of like, you know, it just kind of takes me out of my immersion. And then when Mechagodzilla came on there, beautiful model, by the way, and I've been following the guy who's done the concept artwork for it and everything. I thought that Mechagodzilla's design was dope, but there were even some times where it kind of looks like Power Rangers-ish.
I could see that.
Yeah, but, you know, overall, I wouldn't give it like a bad grade in CGI. There were just some moments where I was just like, but, you know, absolute favorite was Tokyo.
Yes.
I thought that they killed it with that.
The only reason why I asked is because, like, we are going to be more, just off rip, you know, like, we're going to be more forgiving because we don't have the eye for it like you do. Like, you're going to see things that other people aren't going to notice. But that you did bring up a really good point that I did know. There was a point where Millie Bobby Brown and her team, when they're in that room and they're running, I don't know if they're running from the Skull Crushers. I think it's when the Skull Crushers being involved. And they were running across, and you brought that up, and I go, man, that's true. At that point, I do remember thinking at one point in the film that I could see that they were running in front of a screen or something. You could tell, but you know, overall, I thought it was good too. I agree.
And don't get me wrong, like, I think ILM worked on this film, and they do some like amazing work. Like, they've worked on a lot of stuff. They worked on Kong Skull Island, and that I loved the VFX on that one. So I don't really know. I hope that they didn't experience like crunch like video game developers do, where like they have very little time to do like these grandiose things. Because that happened with Black Panther. Like, everybody craps on the CGI of Black Panther, but those guys had like very little time to push out like the best thing that they could do. Yeah. So that's that.
But I liked Black Panther CGI. I don't remember.
Me too.
Yeah.
So many people though, like so many blogs and so many videos and on YouTube and everything, like, oh, this has like PS2 graphics things. Like the guys had like 6 months to like basically redo everything. And, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny because that being said, like with the pandemic, a lot of these movies are being delayed. So at this point, it's like all these future movies better be on point. Like you got a lot of time now, right?
Right.
But Brandon, I know you're a big sci-fi guy. So like, what were your thoughts on Hollow Earth and like how they, it kind of like where these monsters kind of came from and that kind of sci-fi element that they brought into the movie? Because me personally, I mean, honestly, the whole Kong storyline was the one that was keeping this movie alive for me. That was the one that I was hooked on. Agreed. I was, seeing Kong find a new home and him just, him even, going into his throne and like even the way that they got into Hollow Earth, I thought it was like kind of cinematically, like I loved how the spaceship looked and everything. I thought it was just a cool design on the spaceship, how Hollow Earth looked. What were your thoughts on that aspect of the film?
Like I think the best sci-fi is rooted in science, and most of the time. So I was kind of taken like out when like they got down there, and if I remember correctly, like there was like an atmosphere and I think a sun or something like and I was just like, how does that work out? Like you just went below the mantle of the earth and everything like that. But then again, it was like, okay, they did go through some kind of like portal or whatever. So I don't know if that was like another dimension or something, or if it was really them going into the earth and they were still on earth, or I don't know how any of that stuff was working. But, as far as sci-fi goes, I do feel like, in terms of like taking up the creativity, yeah, it was a creative idea. Do I think that they could have done like a little bit better? Yeah. And I know that it's not supposed to be like Interstellar or anything. But when they got down there, I was like, oh, this is all right. I did like what they did with the gravity though. When they got to like the Nexus or whatever, and like stuff just started getting a little bit weird. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool because that is something that I could see happening if that was a thing. But yeah, it was kind of one of those things where I was like, all right, this is a little cheesy, but I'll allow it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned like they went through a portal because like really, I thought it was a really big coincidence that Kong's throne in Hollowed Earth was right where Godzilla was in Tokyo or Hong Kong, and all you had to do was just like fire beam down, and then he's like, oh, there you are, Kong, where'd you go, where have you been? And then like I'm sorry, where was the portal then? Did you have to go through a portal to go back up, or did Godzilla's fire beam just like, forget a portal, just kind of walk back up, we're just fine here? I understand like Godzilla was searching Mechagodzilla, I get all that. That's why he was in Tokyo. But like, what are the odds, man, that your throne is right where that spot is too?
I think. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like one thing that I think might have gone into the design detail is like I think the deepest trench on the Earth is like offshore Japan or something like that, like the Mariana Trench or something. Yeah. And that I thought that Godzilla went there in a reactionary kind of move to get Mechagodzilla, and because he knew that Kong's lair would be down there, because like you guys said before, like he could sense the other Titans. So I thought that he was going there to, like try to preemptively strike down Mechagodzilla, but then also just like, well, since I'm here, let me pick up the eggs and fry King Kong's base.
So he knew it was a 2-for-1 deal then. He
That's
knew
what
that
I thought.
There's a lot of coincidence there, Ernesto.
I took that as he was there for Mechagodzilla because Mechagodzilla had come online, but then he didn't stop until Kong picked up once he activated the axe. But I think he was like, all right. I mean, he's shooting to the center of the Earth, so maybe he's like, all right, that's a good angle. I can just shoot somewhere in the center in there, and I can shoot down and get to it.
I would love to. I love like giving me like 5 more minutes of him trying to figure out the logistics. I'm like all right,
5 more minutes, and he's like, No, not there. Oh,
He
right
pulls
here.
out a power drill and sticks a primer.
He gets like a measuring tape out. I was like, oh no, it's 2 inches more this way. No, I think it's
Hold on,
right
let
here.
me knock this building down right here.
Yeah, it's right.
This is the
Yep.
spot.
I
His
thought-
little arms on a jackhammer.
Yep, that's the spot right there. But yeah, I think it also just goes to show that, like, with everything being considered, like the human element of the movie doesn't really matter. I mean, you're here for the monsters, but if we're given a human element, I wish I just cared more. You know, I know we're talking about logistics of the monsters, but also like they're giving us a human through line, and we're not given much. And I think the biggest heart of the movie was the little girl for Kong. Obviously, like she had the deepest connection with him. I thought it was a great reveal that he knew sign language and he was able to understand her.
That was great. I actually really liked that. Was a good part of this. That was a good storyline they added in there.
Yeah, and also the little girl in the film, she's actually deaf in real life. I saw her doing an interview for, I think it was Fandango or Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like, oh my god, she's deaf, because there was like an interpreter there kind of like speaking on her behalf as she was signing. And I thought it was really cool that they decided to reach out and actually find somebody who was deaf for the role instead of just acting it. So that was a really cool element they added to the movie. But after that, they really didn't have any human characters that really I was able to like connect with. So with that, I just, like I said, it kind of giving like my final thoughts on the movie. I love the action. It was great, and I can easily, if I want to go back and just watch pure monsters duke it out, this is the movie to watch. Like I've seen it twice now, and like I am saying a lot of negative things about it, but also at the same time I'm like I will watch it again. Like it was a fun movie to watch. Yeah. It's like also Kong was in the movie. Like it was I feel like it was more Kong's movie featuring Godzilla, because they really focused on him like 2/3 of the time, and Godzilla about 1/3 of the time as he's like hunting him down. Yes. But even with that, like I would still watch this movie again and be just as happy, just because it's like you're just putting this stuff on the screen. So yes, there were a lot of problems, but I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed seeing two monsters go head to head, and you can't that will never get old. If you like this stuff. Brandon, what are your final thoughts on the film?
Definitely. Just like you said, even though there are a lot of obvious flaws and everything, like it was definitely entertaining and fun to watch. It's one of those. For me, it's kind of just like Transformers. They tried to add the human element in Transformers, and they tried to make it a little bit more anthropomorphic and whatnot, or centered around what it is to be human, but in the sense through the lens of like these robots. And they try to do that with Godzilla versus Kong, and in a way it worked, in a lot of ways it didn't. But I definitely agree that him and the girl who was doing sign language were definitely the heart of the film, and it could have just been those two in there, and that would have been all of the weight that they needed for that kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely want more. I don't want them to stop making movies like this, because I think there's a place for this kind of thing. And even though Godzilla defeated like half the roster already on its own, I would love to see them either duke it out again, kind of like a Goku and Vegeta thing. Like, yeah, they've teamed up, but that once Kong gets that Majin mark on his forehead, it's going down. I would love that kind of thing, where like the playing field got leveled and everything. And yeah, direction wise, sure. The performances, sure. The fun, the action, boom, up here for me. I liked it.
Yeah, and you make a good point. Like, the acting wasn't bad. It's just like the story was the flaw. But like everyone did fine in the movie. We're not complaining about that. They did fine. Yeah. And it's funny you also mentioned about the sequel there, Brandon, like you'll love to see more of these movies. The director came out in an interview and said like if he were to make more of these movies, and he said if there were a sequel, we're gonna get less of a human storyline and more of a hyper realistic animated movie kind of vibe. So like, and hey, I'm all for that. Less humans, more monsters. That's what we're here for, right?
Definitely.
Ernesto, what were your final thoughts on the film?
I thought it was great. I mean, honestly, you could do without Godzilla and Godzilla King of Monsters. Like, maybe you just watch it just for that last final battle scene between Ghidorah and Godzilla. But other than that, you don't really need... You can get the full encompassing MonsterVerse storyline between Skull Island and Godzilla vs. Kong. But, I mean, they're surface level movies. There's not a whole lot of depth, which is fine. It's great. You can turn your brain off, just jump into this world and enjoy a monster movie. That's like, you literally get exactly what you signed up for. It's a pure escapist movie. Yeah. It served its intended purpose. I'm here for it. I'd watch it again. I definitely would watch this movie again.
Absolutely. And so there you go, guys. That is our spoiler review of Godzilla vs. Kong. At the moment, you can watch on HBO Max, or you can head to the theater. It's available there as well. Hey, thanks for listening to this edited version of our weekly podcast, Box Office Bingers. If you want to hear the full version of all of our episodes, which includes us discussing entertainment news, movie and TV reviews, guest interviews, and other things we've been watching, you can find us on wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you want more from us, be sure to hit that subscribe button and find us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, Facebook at boxofficebingers, email at boxofficebingers@gmail.com, and Matt, we're even on the Tiki-Takis. We're on the Tiki-Takis at Box Office Bingers. Once again, thanks for listening.